we're going to look at how to make melodies and chords in drum and bass. Firstly, we need to pick a BPM. So we need to pick anywhere from 170 to 180 BPM. And for this track, I'm going to pick 174 BPM. Next, we need to determine what key we're going to be in. And unless you're a super advanced producer, you always want to pick a minor scale. So unless you've been producing loads and loads of tunes, you're an expert in music theory, then please stick with the minor scale. Finally, we need to look at the range for choices of the minor scale. And typically the D to G range sounds best. And this is because this is where low end sounds better and where it comes through more. So D minor, E minor, F minor, G minor. However, there's always exceptions to this rule, so you still do need to experiment. For example, A minor, A sharp minor, they can still sound really awesome in your tracks. This is just a general guide. Next, we need to determine what creates an emotional and melodic and chord progression style track. So in your intro, you're going to have things like pads, and these are mostly synthesizers, but of course we're including real instruments as well, like pianos and string instruments. And we're going to be wanting to layer these as well. So for example, we might have a piano layered with a synth, both playing some sort of chord progression. Next, we need something to support the chord progression, and this can be in the form of an ARP, short for arpeggiator. And this is typically shorter notes, like a pluck, that follows the chord progression. And then we can have melodies over the top, such as keys playing some sort of melody, or leads playing some sort of melody as well. And these can also be crossed over sometimes with leads into the drop. And finally, we need some low end in our intros. And to get this, we use a Reese Bass. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to create a chord progression. I'm going to show you how to make it as emotional as possible. And on the screen right now, we've got my current favorite scale to use. And this is F minor. And this is what we're going to be using today. And you can see here, we've got the F minor scale. So this is all the notes in F minor. And then below that, we've got all the chords in F minor. And this is what we're going to be using to make our chord progression. So we're going to put that in the top left of our screen now so you can see what's going on. And then if we just go onto the door here, let's just set our piano playlist up so it's in F minor as well. And this is possible on Ableton. It's just slightly different steps. So let's come to view. Then we'll go to scale highlighting, and then you can see here F minor, and you just select that there. So now we need to create an emotional chord progression. Now this can actually be really hard to do and get right because you need to use multiple octaves and you need to use the right chords for it to not sound cheesy. So it's going to be a mixture of referring to the different chords and using them, as well as using your ears to determine what sounds good and what sounds bad. And we're going to be using multiple octaves as well. And this is the real key thing to note. You need to be using multiple octaves. So let's just start with 4 bars. So what we'll do is just create 1 bar for each chord, and then we'll change this up later on to sound even better. So we're always going to start with the root note of F minor, and the root note of F minor is just F. So let's start with F minor as our first chord. And if we have a look in the top left, you can see our chord is F, G sharp, C. So we've got F here, G sharp, and then C. If we were to play this now, this is just a piano. Sounds pretty good, but we're not using more than 1 octave. So we can make this sound better by using multiple octaves. I'm going to remove this G here, and then we're just going to add an F here, and then we're going to add in a G sharp as well here. Now we're still using the F, G, C from the chord progression, having our root note at the bottom here, F, so we've got 2 Fs in the chord, and then if we play it now, it should sound more full. That sounds way better. Now we need to pick a chord for the next section. So again, we can come up to our list and we can pick a chord. So I'm liking the look of G sharp major. It's got a G sharp in it, a C, and a D sharp. So again, let's put this on the board. G sharp, C, D sharp. And again, we want it to be more full. So let's add another G sharp in here. And let's see if we can maybe take this C away and put it up here. Now I'm just listening to that, and it doesn't sound as full in the low end anymore, and it sounds a bit thin in the high end. So let's just drop this C back down to here and see how that sounds. I think that sounds better. Let's see what it sounds like with a C as well up here. I think that sounds even better, so let's leave it with that. Now we need another chord in our progression. So again, let's go back to all the different chords we can use. And I'm liking the look of A sharp minor. So A sharp, C sharp, and then F. And again, we're going to need to change this up a bit. So let's add in the A sharp up here. I'm really liking how that's sounding. Maybe we can add in another C sharp here. Yeah, that sounds really cool. Now finally we need one more note, and from just listening to it I feel like it needs to go down in pitch a bit. And the note that goes down in pitch here is C sharp major. So let's try C sharp major. So that is C sharp, F and G sharp. So that's all the way down here. And then we've got F and then G sharp. But of course we need it to be a bit higher in pitch. So let's just duplicate this and put it up here. And then let's duplicate it again and put it up here. And then what we'll do is just get rid of some of the notes we don't need. So let's just listen to it first. So you see that sounds a little bit messy at the moment. So let's get rid of maybe the top two and the bottom one. See how this sounds now? Still sounds a little bit strange, so let's try getting rid of this F here. That's sounding a lot better. And you note that this one, we're not starting with the C sharp on the bottom. So let's see if we can add the root note of C sharp back down here, and let's see if it sounds all right. Just because then we're copying the root note for each one. So you see it's F minor, G sharp major, A sharp minor, C sharp minor. There we go, that sounds brilliant. So that is the chord progression complete. But you might be thinking, that's going really fast. How can we make it go slower? So we can do this by either doubling the speed of everyone. So this is one chord progression we could do. Something like this. And then if we press play now, that sounds wicked, and that would work really well in a tune. But we can make it even more complicated by, for example, having them different lengths. So we could have this one 2 bars long, and then we could have this one as 1 bar, this one as 1 bar, and then we could make this one here 2 bars again, and then we could add something more here. So for example, we could extend this even longer here, and then add this back in, and then something like this. And that's how you make it go from a basic chord progression to something a bit more intricate and advanced. So now we've done that, we need to develop our intro. And as you can see here, that's what I've done. Now, if you want to learn loads more about music production, get access to a 15-hour course made by me, as well as one-to-one feedback on your tracks and help releasing your music, then my Music Production Academy is down below, the second link down below. I look forward to seeing you inside. So next what we need to do is layer it. And it's really simple to layer it. So we've got our piano here, which is the first element. And then our second element is just a pad. And you can use synthesizer for this. I'm using Nexus here, but you can use stuff like Serum. And you can literally just come to here, create a new pattern. And then if we just zoom in here, I like to introduce stuff every 8 to 16 bars. So we've got 16 bars of just the piano, and then we layer it in the next 16 bars here. What we can do really simply is go to pattern 1, come down here, press Ctrl C, and then come to the pad and do Ctrl V. And we literally just copied it. Like that. And now suddenly we've just got a layer just like that. And then we can layer it further. So here I've got another layer, like a little wobble, and you'll hear that this is being automated in slowly. So if we listen to this a bit further down the line with all the automation, it sounds like this. And then other things we can do to improve it is, for example, we might want this a whole octave higher. So we can drag it up like this, so it's higher in pitch. And then we get this. And you see how we've just gone from a layer of a piano to a piano, a pad, a synth, and it's all like layered together, playing the same chord progression in different octaves. And it's just making the track sound really full. So we've got our pad and our layers. Now we need a ARP or a melody. And in this case here, I've just got an ARP, and the ARP is following the chord progressions. So let me play it on its own for you. And this is a little bit more complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's really simple. So it's essentially playing F, G, C, which is F minor. And then we've created a nice change in different elements. So you can see here, it's going up the octave, then back down the octave, then up the octave, down the octave. And then we just switch it up, keeping it in key. And I've basically just kept this going and changing it to what sounded good over the pad. If we play it. It's basically just when a new pad comes in, the top notes of the ARP are changing. So we go from C to C sharp to D sharp, and all these notes you'll note if you have a look at the F minor scale, they're all in this. And that's why it sounds good. So there's a little bit of creativity here mixed in with some theory. ARPs are probably the easiest way to create progressions over chords. And then we have more complicated things, which are the melodies. And these are like the leads and the keys that play over melodies. And I'll show you an example of that after this. But typically, if you really struggle with stuff like that, then it's best to just find samples and sample packs. And this can be found on Splice, and then you can use Splice Bridge to get it into key. And I'll show you an example of that in a second, after we look at the Reese Bass, which is the final part of the jigsaw puzzle. So we have our pads layered, our ARP, and then we have our Reese Bass below, covering the low end. And this is just following the root notes that we mentioned earlier. So we've got our F minor, our G sharp major, A sharp minor, C sharp minor. And the root notes of all those chords are F, G sharp, A sharp, C sharp. And then back to A sharp there. And then if we play it, you'll see how simple this is to get your Reese Bass in. And then the key things to note are just you keep things progressing either every 8 bars or 16 bars by introducing more layers, ARPs, and then we've also got this little lead thing here, which is just playing an F. And that's just like getting creative a little bit. So now let's look at how you can use keys and things like leads in drum and bass and samples at the same time. So this is just a sample directly from Splice. So let's have a listen. And another thing to note, it's really cool to use atmospheres under stuff like this. So these atmospheres, so it's just like the root note of the key playing for an extended period of time and playing some crazy soundscape. If you want me to make a separate tutorial on atmospheres and like dark drum and bass, then leave a comment down below and I can do that. That's typically a bit harder to do. And these work great as well under the last track that we went through in certain circumstances, and vocal effects as well in the key of the track can really help, like big vocal spacious atmospheres. So if we just listen to this, it's basically just somebody playing a sort of melody that they've come up with in the key of the track. And then in the next section we will bring in like a lead bass. And that's another way of doing things. And then it goes into the drop. So there's these big emotional atmospheric style tracks you can do, where you have chord progressions, ARPs, Reese basses, or there's these other style of intros you can do which are a little bit more intricate, and they use melodies and lead basses to create the tension and atmosphere. Now, if you're quite new to producing, I recommend starting with the first example I showed. Learn all about chord progressions, ARPs, Reese basses, try and make something that sounds good and then put a vocal over the top of it. Add in some atmosses below it, some effects, some vocal effects, some vocal atmos, and see what you get. And then once you've mastered that, move on to like these more key focused and lead focused style tracks and see what you can come up with there. And then in terms of the drop, I've taught this a lot. When you create your drop, you need to be following the A, B, A, C style method. And this is essentially first 2 bars are your section A. So once you've made that section, you can then copy this into this part here, and this will be exactly the same. And then what you need to do is copy A section onto here, and then create some variation, and this will be called B. Copy B section onto here, make some variation, and this will then be C. Now, if you want me to make a completely separate video on drop melodies and how these work, then let me know down below and I can do that as well. If you've got to the end of this video and you're still feeling a little bit confused, a lot of my sample packs now do have MIDI files in, and all the future sample packs I'm working on are going to have really detailed MIDI files, chord progression, everything like this in them, so that you can literally just drag them in onto your DAW and learn exactly how those progressions work. And it's just a lot easier way to learn. So make sure to check out my sample packs if you want to make even better music. That's the first link down below. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you thought of this video. Was it helpful? Let me know if you've got any other suggestions for videos in the future, and I'll see you all in the next one.